Okay, PAYdata, the payroll calculation system from Landmark and Farm Data. It can have more than one business within the system, so if you have several payrolls running, they can be held separately. Where there are differing pay frequencies within the same business, for instance where some people are paid monthly and some people are paid weekly, they can be held in separate payrolls but brought together for reporting. So in this case we have a monthly payroll and a weekly payroll for the same company. So if we go into the system, if we initially go to the maintenance section, which is where all the setup of the payroll is contained. So in the payroll parameters, we have the payroll name, the frequency of this payroll, settings for the number of hourly rates that can be applied to an employee, the number of cost centres that can be applied to an employee, the holiday year-end month, so we record holidays within the system and report on them also, the tax year in progress, last paid, and so on. The last pay here was in July and it was paid on the 31st of the month. Nominal ledger codes are the nominal ledger codes in our accounting system where we want various parts of the payroll to be deposited. Where we are linked to a KEYPrime system, the nominal ledger codes are cross-checked against that business in the KEYPrime to ensure that they are there and valid, and we can also allocate to analysis and enterprise levels within the KEYPrime system. Employer details are simply the name, the address, phone number, contact details. If it's a small employer, then the small employer's relief can be applied, and if any CIS deductions have to be recorded, then we can switch that on and they can be reported in an EPS as necessary. Bank details for this payroll, where the bank will be drawn from, where the money will be drawn from. In this case we are running an autopay text file, so we're creating a file which can be uploaded into a bank system or a banking system, and these are set to a particular place in the payroll. We can browse and just make sure, if we wish, that we're going to the right place. So we can pick up Payroll 32 folder into the bank, and that's where these files will be deposited and where we'll find them. Where a bank system needs a specific extension to the file, that can be set in, and if we're doing the RTI cross-reference, that can be set, and the bank's user ID can also be set for that purpose. Tax details are the tax office names and numbers, reference numbers that apply to this payroll. Self-assessment UTR, co-tax references, they can be set in if necessary. And last year's payroll for reference can be selected as well. That would be set automatically within the system. So that's the basic settings. We have pension settings, so we can have multiple pension schemes in the system, but an employee can only ever be in one at a time. And we also have to have one nominated as the auto-enrolment system. So we've got our staging date, our pay reference, last pay reference period, our next cyclical re-enrolment date. So that is all catered for within the system. We can postpone new employees for set up to the maximum of 3 months if we want. We can do that automatically. And we are set to work with a nest pension scheme here. So the pension, that nest pension scheme details are within the system, held within the system. and the files that are created for the nest upload are also within a specific folder. So we've catered for pension schemes, additions and deductions. So these are things over and above the normal pay and hourly pay, basic pay and hourly pay, which may be applied. So we have various lists in here, after tax deductions. So these are things that may be added in to a person's pay on a weekly or monthly basis, or an occasional basis, and the nominal ledger code that these are sent to as well. So we have additions before and after tax and deductions before and after tax. So the statutory tables are where the PAYE, national insurance and auto enrolment thresholds are held. So these are the standard tables and breaks. These are updated usually annually at the beginning of beginning of the pay year, and you are notified by us of when and how to change these. You would not normally go into these at any time, simply to check that they're correct. And other maintenance things, automatic update of tax codes, so when the tax code changes by a specific amount, we can go in there and set that specific amount in, and it will change everybody by that amount. Holiday year end, end of tax year, and block change of pay rate. So if everybody's pay is lifted by 2%, you can set that in and it will do the calculation for each person for you. So that is the setup of the system. Again, not normally something that you would be going into every week, but occasionally there are things which have to be changed, and we would normally inform you of when and how to change those things. In the home screen, which is where all the work, standard everyday work, gets done. So we've got our employee records. So we've got our list of employees in here. If there's somebody joining, we can click on Add New Employee and it will give us an empty record to fill in for that employee. We maintain all the leavers in the system till the end of the year, so we can look at anybody who's left, or we can pick up all and give us a complete list. So we can make our selection here, hit the refresh button, and we'll get that listed on the screen. And that can be ordered in any order you want. So we could put it in date of birth order if we wanted, up or down, start date order, up or down. So these columns can be amended, ordered as we see fit. So from here we can click into an individual, and we're into their record. So the basic details on the first page, so the employee number, which you enter for the employee when you create them, names, date of birth, sex, national insurance number, citizenship, address, telephone number, start date are all held on the first page. Details are fairly straightforward. If there is an email address which we send payslips to, then that has to be put in here, and we can set a specific password for this employee for the payslip if we want. Payment method, this person's by cheque. If they were by bank transfer, we would fill in the bank details for this employee. Is he a director, so that the national insurance works in a different manner, which is prescribed by HMRC for directors. When they became a director, and if there is shared parental pay with a partner, then we need the partner's information as well. Standard entries. Payment, so tax code, when were they last paid? Are they paid irregularly? So if they come and go, then we may set that. Are they an apprentice? Have they got a student loan? When was it last reviewed? And the basic pay can be set here. So that would be, in this case, the monthly pay. If it was a weekly system, that would be the weekly pay. And then the overtime rates that apply to this employee. And these can be up to 10 different rates if we wish. Pension scheme, so this person is in this nest scheme. That's when they joined, and it's active. We're not doing salary exchange, and it's simply working on the standard figures. Costings, which we can allocate this employee to different cost codes, cost centres in the accounts. And again, if it's linked to KEYPrime, we have a nominal ledger code, we have an enterprise, and we have the analysis code that we can enter to. And we can make a permanent split in this employee, so he's been split 50-50 between two different codes, and so on. So we could split up to 10 ways for an individual. If this is left blank, we have to make that entry each week or each month as we enter the wage details. And then we go into the things that add up as you go along. So the gross pay and pension values, and so on. So these are cumulative figures that are just accumulated as you go through the year. If it's a new starter, then we can say they came with or without P45, the standard questions relating to the P45 in the job, and the values from the P45. National insurance cumulatives, so the national insurance table letter that's being used. And the system does have checks in it, so if somebody hits state pension age, you cannot pay them until you come in here and formally change to the correct letter. So state pension age, hitting 21, apprentice is hitting 25, you will be warned that you have to change their national insurance letter, and you will not be able to pay them until you do so. And, any additions and deductions that are set into this person's, which happen every time. Holidays, so we've got the holiday entitlement, days taken so far, what's remaining, and the dates and how many days that were taken. And also sickness. So again, qualifying days, so these would be the days of the week that this person normally works, so it works a 5-day week. So if we received a sick note, we would put in the start date, the end date, and the reason if we wanted, and the comment, and the system would then calculate the appropriate sick pay for that period. And average earnings we maintain to make sure that they hit the threshold for statutory sick pay payments. So that's the individual's record. That can be updated if things change, obviously. So tax codes change, names, addresses change, that sort of thing can be amended in here. So that's the employee record. To make it work, we do payroll runs. So the last payroll run was done for July, which was month 4 on the 31st of July. This one will be month 5, August, for the 31st of August. So that is the date for the payslip. The payroll may be run at any time up to that date. So you may be doing this on the 25th of the month for payments to be made on the 31st. But that date is the payslip date, and that is the date that is reported to HMRC and to the pension companies. And also the pension provider, the pay reference period is the period that for pension that this payment is covering. So these normally would just increment themselves and you just accept what's there. And that then takes us into the pay screen where we actually do enter the wage details. So Wilma Fraser is the first person. She's got a basic pay, she's got no overtime. Click calculate, and it simply works out the figures. That's taking some income tax. Now, I know this pension is past state. This person's past state pension age. There is no national insurance deduction for the employee. There is no pension calculated. Simply income tax to give us the net pay. So if we're happy with that, we save it. And we move to the next one. Alexander Turner, part-time worker, works a few days a week or a few days during the month, and simply gets a basic. So again, calculate. Doesn't hit any thresholds, so he's no deductions. Carry on. Stephen Kendall, well, he's one of our standard workers. He gets a basic pay, and he's got 20 hours of overtime, so we can enter that in there, and that then does the calculation. So we've got the basic plus hourly to give us our gross, national insurance deduction, pension deduction for the employee and the employer, income tax to give us the net pay. If there were other things to be added in, so if for instance he was to get a one-off expenses refund, we can say he's got £32.50 of expenses to get refunded, and they're added in to the system. When we're happy with that, we save it, and that gives the amended net pay. If there was something in an employee's record that we had to change, we could simply click into the employee records. It would take us into their record, and we could amend it at that point, come back and re-enter the details for this person. If we look at the gross pay, so anything in blue with an underline is an active figure. So gross pay shows us the gross pay, pensionable pay, so it's taken off the threshold for the lower threshold for the pension scheme, tax, NIable pay and tax pay. So it gives us an idea of the figures that are being worked out. If there were holidays to be recorded, we would click into holidays, the start date, the end date. So if he took a couple of days, it would be 2020 August 2020 to the 15th 08 2020. He took 2 days, and I'll save that. So we've recorded some holidays. If somebody was leaving, you would click in there, fill in the leaving date, save it, and that would mark them as a leaver to be passed to the leaving section at the end of the payroll run. If we wanted to amend where the wages were being sent to, we could 01051, we'll change the code, and we'll say that 25% of the hours were going to one code and 75% were going to the other code. So we can amend the breakdown to the cost centres on a weekly, monthly basis if we wish. And we can save that. Move on to the next one. Ian Henry is a director, so director's NI rules apply. Calculate, save. Janet Campbell, standard salary, no overtime, calculate, save. Hector is purely hourly pay, so we put in his basic hours and any overtime he has, and that gives us an hourly pay. He's got a before tax deduction set into the system, so he's getting board and lodgings taking off. National insurance, pension, income tax is calculated to give us the net pay, and we save that. So we have paid everybody. We do not need to pay everybody. If somebody wasn't getting paid, we would simply not record anything against their name and leave them set as a no for pay. So we've paid everybody, so good idea just to have a quick check, go into the reports, summary wages report, have a look, make sure there is nothing in here that's silly. So we haven't put in, that's the net pays, they all look okay. We haven't put in a silly amount of hours for somebody by mistake, so we'll just check through that. Hourly pay, SSP, we haven't got any of that. Before tax and after tax adjustments, gross pay, pension. So we can just quickly check after tax adjustment, that was the expenses that were being repaid. Student loan, so Janet's got a student loan deduction. So it has just a quick check through that, make sure we don't make any mistake. We haven't made any mistakes. If we had made a mistake, we could simply go back, pick them up, amend it and save it again. But when we're happy, click complete and save all the changes. Yep, we're happy with all that. We want to complete, yes, and we are then into the point where we can take some prints if we want. All these reports are available during the year and after the year end. So if we miss something off or we need to go back and reprint something, they're all available to us and can be reprinted at any time. So something like the wage analysis, if we just have a quick look at that, we can see, this person gets paid by cheque. These ones are on the bank transfer, so that's the total for the bank transfer. This is the breakdown for the nominal ledger posting, the credits and debits that we would have to pay. And finally, pension scheme contributions that are due. So it's just a print of the figures that are vital for this payroll run. Payslips, so we're ready to send the payslips. Just click display or print. 2 people are on email, so if we want to email, we simply select and send, and that will ping them off by email. The rest are on paper, so they're simply printed out. A4 sheet, foldable into a windowed envelope and sent to the employee. It has all the relevant detail on it: basic pay, hourly pay, deductions this period, and the employer deductions, although they are not directly related to the pay for this employee, it does show that these are being deducted and passed across, and the cumulatives for the deductions to date and holidays. So that's payslips. So that is the payroll effectively finished. Finishing the payroll has created an auto enrolment pension file which we can upload into the relevant pension scheme website. It's also created the BACS file, which is in the background ready to be imported into any BACS software. We also have, if we are linked to KEYPrime, the file in the background which can then be imported into KEYPrime to create the journal entry for the wages. So we finished a payroll run. We would want to go and submit that, the full payment submission, to the HMRC. We would pick that up. It's for month 5. Now I'm going to have to say this pay is late because we're way past the end of August, but hopefully you're not late, and we simply click next. First time we do it, we enter the government gateway credentials for this business. It will remember them the next time. Click Next, and then click Submit, and that will transmit the information up to the HMRC system. If you ever get an error there, we can look in, see what that error is, and tell you what has to be amended. We have an EPS, which is the monthly return for any deductions which are being withheld from the payment, which can be submitted as and when required. As I said, these payroll run reports that we got at the end of a period, we can click into the payroll run reports and say, I want a payslip reprinted for month 2. Go in there, display it, brings up the payslips. If it's if it's Janet's that's wanted, we can simply resend it. Or from here, we can reprint it. Pick the one we want and reprint it. So as I mentioned, all these reports are available through the year. The monthly returns report, which brings together the 2 payrolls, so it looks at the payrolls for which are in the current year and which have the same tax reference number in the settings, and brings them together for one report. So it gives us totals for tax, national insurance, etc. that are due for each month. So these are the total figures that are due for each month. And that can be run at any time. There are also a series of reports in here, so code list reports, employee reports, simple employee summaries, or detailed employees you can print for all or individuals, cumulatives, additions and deductions, sickness records, holiday records, standard reports that you can print off at any time. Payroll reports, so things like payroll worksheet. Payment details is quite a nice report. It shows us exactly for each employee what they were paid on each payroll run. So it gives us a full list of figures. Pension payments, average earnings, holidays, gross pay, hourly pay details, and they can be filtered as you require. Wages reports, that's again going back to where we were, it's just another way of getting to them from the reporting screen. And email settings and email documents, so that's the settings that have to be set up so that we can email. And again, we can go back from here and pick up documents to resend from any particular month. P45 reports, so if somebody's left, we can come in here and print their P45, and at the end of the year we can print the P60s. So, and the P60s are just on plain paper. The design actually has to change each year. That's part of the annual update, but it means that you do not have to go and find paper to print them on. Order paper from HMRC. And again, these can be reprinted at any time. And utilities are various things like regenerating files. If we made amendments, we have to regenerate a file, we can do that, and so on. And that is the basic system. We would suggest you always do a backup each payroll run. There are in the background backups being taken when you start each payroll run, which we can use to get you back if there is a mistake and you can't get back otherwise. So we have some fallbacks in the system that let us help you out if you have a problem. So that is PAYdata.